The whip rollover is one of the best beginner butterfly knife tricks to learn, and here's why. It's as flashy as it is useful, and it finds itself at home in both beginner and more advanced combos alike. Getting this trick down early as a beginner will help you to build flowy combos and teach you how to transfer momentum well between tricks. And now that you know why it's a fantastic balisong trick to master, let's get into how to do it. To learn this trick, you don't need any prerequisites, but it would help if you can already do an index rollover and the Y2K. You don't need to go and learn those first. You can, but you can also just follow this tutorial and break down those moves step by step, and you'll be able to get this. Now, if this is your very first butterfly knife trick that you're attempting, I would recommend checking out the video up here where I'll teach you the very first tricks that you should learn. Now, as you might have noticed, if you do the index rollover, swing it around and do that thumb rollover, that is very similar to the whip rollover, except the whip rollover is one continuous movement. Now, while you can do the index to thumb rollover fluently and you can throw it into your combos, the whip rollover does have some other advantages that I'll mention later. And if you're wondering which one to throw in your combos, well, why not use both? Now for the breakdown of this trick. I'm going to start with the safe handle, and you're going to start with that index roll movement. You're going to hold on to the safe handle so that way the bite handle and blade can swing freely, and you're going to throw the bally out. Now, once you throw it, you're going to let go of the safe handle, and the balisong is going to spin around your finger. It's important to let the bite handle actually move over your finger kind of once you let go, because if you let go of the safe handle too quickly, the balisong might fly away instead of wrapping around your finger like so. So you're going to throw the bally out, and as it's spinning, you're going to then grab the bite handle between your thumb and your index. Just like that. Now, if you notice my hand, it's moving from the wrist to start the movement, but after that, my hand is staying pretty much perfectly still. Now, if you notice my hand is moving in the beginning from the wrist just to get that momentum, but then after that, my hand is really not moving. It's really like you're moving your hand, throwing it, and then once you let go, you just wrap around with your finger. Now, for the next part of this movement, you're going to basically, as soon as you grab the bite handle, you're going to initiate it and swing down. And the reason for that is because when throwing from the safe handle, you're now holding the bite handle. If you don't do this movement fast enough, you'll have the sharp side of the blade slam into your finger. Now, once you get into this position, you're just going to be moving from here to here. So now as you're looking down on the balisong, there's like, imagine this plane here. That is what the balisong is rotating around. And so simply all you're doing is you're just moving your wrist around like that. So that's what your hand is doing. You're going to want to make sure that you're holding the balisong loosely, because if you don't, it won't move properly. So you have a loose grip, so that way as you're moving in that plane, the balisong can rotate freely and be aligned for the next part of the trick. Now, something I recommend doing is just go back and forth. Just do that movement, move your balisong with the other hand, and do it again, so you can get that whipping motion down smoothly. That way, once you go to practice the first step into the second one, you don't really have to think and be like, oh, how exactly was I moving my wrist? How hard do I need to grip it? You'll just kind of have that down. And so that helps when you're learning any trick, really, is just breaking it down into the smallest pieces you can and practicing those. So just practice the whip movement. And then once you get that down, take it from the top, do the index into the whip. Now, when you're doing that index roll to the whip transition, it's important as you're practicing to try and grab a little bit higher up on the balisong's handle. Because if you grab it too low like this and you try and do that trick, you'll be much more likely to have the blade either hit your finger, or as you're moving, it might scrape across. Make sure you pay attention to your speed and the movement of your hand, so that way the blade never touches your finger. Now, once you're in this position, you just do a thumb rollover. So you're going to just grab the balisong, and in the same way that you did the index rollover, you want to throw it around the thumb, and as it's moving around, that's when you let go. You want to make sure you keep your hand still, so that way you're not introducing other forces that cause the balisong to fly around. As it's rotating, you just open up your hand and then grab it. And so that looks like this. Now, once you get to this position, it's helpful to, I usually practice with a wrist pass, which means where you kind of drop your hand down, so that way the balisong doesn't hit the back of your hand. And this is so that way, if you start with the whip rollover and the bite handle, the blade would be coming around to your hand, but you can practice to miss it. And of course, after doing that thumb rollover, you can do a wrist pass and then catch both handles open. Or if you'd like, you can go into another trick. And just practicing going into whip rollovers over and over again can be a fun way to get that trick down. And practice not only doing the whip rollover itself, but going into other tricks after it. And something else to note that helps with the whip rollover is you might be tempted to do the whip rollover like this, because that's probably how you are doing the index rollover, if you've done that one. But you're gonna wanna kind of angle your hand like that. So that way you're kind of almost pointing down. And maybe it's more of a style thing, but I find it easier to avoid the blade touching my index finger if I do the whip rollover like that. Now that you've got the whip rollover down, the next time you go to end a combo, see if you can go into a whip rollover and keep the flow going instead. But what do you do if you're stuck ending in the ice pick grip? Watch this video next where I cover 2 flowy ways to get out of the ice pick grip.